Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class, I've been creating a series of videos for the book that will be used for this class in the fall 2019 semester, that book being Pro ASP.NET MVC 5, an A-Press text by Adam Freeman. So far, I have gone through the first 5 chapters, and I'm up to the essential tools for MVC. Remember, this is broken into several sections. All right, so the author mentions that back in Chapter 3, he went over dependency injection, which I think is a fairly complex topic. To recap, the idea, as it says, is to decouple the components in an MVC app. When you decouple, what you are saying is that you can make changes to any of the individual components, so ideally to the model and or to the view and or to the controller, without making a change where making a change to one component will not affect the other components. All right, in the sections that follow, the author explains a problem that he deliberately created in the example for the chapter to show how Ninject, his preferred DI or dependency injection container, can be used to solve it. He says, don't worry if you cannot get along with Ninject. The basic principles are the same for all containers, and there are many alternatives from which to choose. All right, understanding the problem, middle of page 123. In the example app, the author created an example of a basic problem that dependency injectors address, tightly coupled classes. The shopping cart class is tightly coupled with the link value calculator class, and the home controller class is tightly coupled to both the shopping cart class and the link value calculator class. This means, as the author says, if he wants to replace the link value calculator class, he'll have to locate and change the references to the classes that are currently tightly coupled to it. This is not a problem in a simple project, but it becomes tedious and error prone in a real project, especially if you want to switch between different calculator implementations, rather than just replacing one class with another. I can solve part of the problem, the author says, by using a C# interface to abstract the definition of the calculator functionality from its implementation. To demonstrate this, he has added an I value. Remember that interfaces should always start with I. So we're going to add this to the models folder. Okay, and we have that right here. So we're going to, let's see, let's just grab everything that's in here, put it into that file. Quite a bit smaller, as you can see. Again, it's an interface. It's going to use system collections generic. It's an interface I for the value calculator. All right, and it's saying what? That anybody who, remember, that implements this interface will have to include the value products method. So I can then implement this interface in link calculator as shown. In the Java programming language, you use the word extends for inheritance and the word implements for interfaces. In the C# programming language, you use the colon for both inheritance and for implementation of interfaces. So let's go back to our link value calculator. So we're going to change that like this. You'll notice it already has a value products method, and that value products method is what we said here earlier must be implemented. Okay, so we're already following the rules, so to speak. The interface allows me to break the tight coupling between the shopping cart and link value calculator classes as shown in 6.8. So I'm going to grab all of this and I'm going to replace what's currently in the shoppingcart.cs file with this. All right. Again, now we are working with what? We are working with the interface. Again, remember this idea of decoupling. We're saying that when you change one thing, you want the effect on everything else to be as limited as possible. All right, the author says he's made progress, but C# requires me to specify the implementation class for an interface during instantiation, which is understandable because it needs to know which implementation class to use, but it means there's still a problem in the home controller when creating the link value calculator object as shown here. So I want to go back to the home controller. And I believe this is the line we'll want to comment out and put in that line. The goal with Ninject here, it says, is to reach the point where you can specify that you want to instantiate an implementation of value calculator interface, but the details of the implementation that's required are not part of the code. So you could say in a way you're kind of hiding that information. This will mean telling Ninject that link value calculator is the implementation of the value calculator interface to be used, and updating the home controller class so that it obtains the objects via Ninject rather than via the new keyword. All right. The simplest way, it says there, to add Ninject is to use NuGet. All right. Now, I'm just going to do one thing before I do this. Okay? And that is, I'm going to go back to my project. I am going to right mouse click on the name of the project and choose Manage NuGet Packages. Why? Because I want to make sure, no, there is no Ninject installed, but I want to browse and I want to type in here Ninject because I want to see what the current version is. There's an inject for MVC 5, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. All right, so if we jump back to here, so notice it'll say MVC 3. Well, we wouldn't want that. All right, so install package Ninject, and the version is 3.0.1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. 1.10. This is 4.0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this. Hopefully I'm doing it correctly, and if I'm not, if I have to go back and redo this, then I do. Alright, so there's the install of that. It'll say, do I accept the license agreement? Sure. So I now have that, which added a bunch of stuff for me. Secondly, I am told that I want to use the Ninject web.web.common. Is there a .web.common? Right here it looks like there is. There's a web.common web host and a web.common Owen host. And there could be others. There's a lot of Ninject stuff in here. Trying to see if there's just a web.common period. Nothing else in there. How about this? We'll go to here, ninject.web.common. There it is. All right. So I'm going to install that one. And it was 3.3.1. Again, I'm accepting. And on here, it was 3.0.0.7. I also want the one for MVC 5. This says MVC 3. Of course, I wouldn't want that. So I'm going to put in here ninject.mvc 5. All right. And I'm going to install that as well. It is 3.3.0. If it does ask me if I want to accept any licensing, it looks like it's not. Yep, it is. And I'll accept that. All right. Again, I'm doing it a little differently because I'm trying to use what I consider to be the latest and the greatest, whereas in the book, they were using information for back on, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Okay? All right. So the first command tells the core package, the second one, common, the third one for MVC. Okay? It says these are the latest versions. You should use the version argument to ensure you get the right results. Well, I don't even know how to do that, so I'm not going to. Getting started with Ninject. I am at 13 minutes. So I believe the Getting Started with Ninject, which is the middle of page 125, will be what I will do to begin the next lesson. Be back with that shortly.